If someone were to tell me I could only use one interactive tool for the rest of my life here in CorelDRAW X4, I would choose this next one, the interactive distortion tool. There are some really cool things you can do with objects using the interactive distortion tool, and because it's interactive, you can make a lot of changes on the fly. Still using our interactive tools.cdr file here from the lesson 11 folder of the exercise files. I'm now on page 4. So if you're following along, click on page 4. And you can see we've got one object here, which is the star. It has an interactive fill, a fill we talked about in the very first lesson of this chapter. So let's click on it, and let's go over to our interactive tools flyout. Last one we used was the interactive contour, so I'm going to click and hold that one down to gain access to the distort or interactive distortion tool. So when I give that a click, you can see I've still got the nodes around the points of my star. I've got some options up here on the property bar for the type of distortion that I'm about to apply. By default, push and pull distortion appears here. There are some other ones like the zipper distortion as well as the twister distortion. So let's try each of these. So with the first one selected, push and pull distortion, let's just click and drag from the center out. And you can see that splat effect right there. Very cool stuff. I'm already impressed. I'm going to click undo. And let's try dragging in the opposite direction. So we got both push and pull. If I click and drag from the center to the left, you can see that's a totally different effect. I'm going to undo that. Now just like any of the other tools, we click and drag. I'm going to go just slightly off to the right here. I don't want my object going off the page. So make it subtle. But I do have these tools in here where I can increase or decrease. If I'm not happy with what I've created, I can increase and decrease just like that. Bring it back until I see something closer to what I'm looking for. And of course, I can also make changes up here from my property bar. First of all, you'll see 48 is the level selected for the push and pull distortion amplitude. We can increase or decrease that using our arrows. It's the same as clicking and dragging the slider. And we can also come in here and just type in a value if we wanted to, like 25, and hit enter. Now at any time we can remove the effect if we want to start over. Clicking the clear distortion button here takes us right back. We're still using our distortion tool, but let's go up here and try a different one. Let's try the zipper distortion. This time from the center I'm going to click and drag, and you can see the edges are getting very jagged as I click and drag. Now if I just go ever so slightly, you can see that's a totally different effect. If I drag it way out, you can see I turn out with some kind of weird looking object here. So really you can get very creative. I'm going to go ever so slightly, but I can also adjust things. Notice I've got a couple of fields here for the amplitude as well as the distortion frequency. I'm going to increase this from 5. I'm just going to go all the way up to about 20 here. I could have typed that in as well, and you can see how that really changes the effect. I can also adjust the amplitude. I can grow it or shrink it, and of course I can just type in a value here if I wanted to as well. 44 for example, and hit enter, and now I've got a really different looking object. This all started with a plain old star with an interactive fill applied. Alright, I'm going to clear that one because here's my favorite. This one here called the twister distortion allows you to do a couple of things. First of all, you can click and drag, but then you can also rotate. So you can see I've got a bit of a dancing star here. And as I rotate and let go, I kind of twisted it into a new shape. I can drag it out and around and around and around. You can see the further I go around, I can keep going in a circle. I can go past 360 degrees and end up with some really cool effects. Let's bring it back around in a circle until it's just a bit of a subtle change. Right there is a good spot. You can see up here I've got the ability to adjust complete rotations. I haven't done one complete rotation yet, so that's why you see a 0 here. But I could use these values to increase or decrease the number of complete rotations. But also over here I can add additional degrees. So as I click the up arrow, for example, you can see it's the equivalent of slowly dragging this handle here in a clockwise fashion. There we go. Very cool stuff. All right, so that's our interactive distortion tool. You can see how you can get very creative with any old object. This was a star, and it did have a nice fill effect, so that adds to the intensity of what we see in front of us. But using the different types of distortions, push and pull, zipper, or twister distortion, you have all kinds of properties at your disposal here in the property bar, or interactively using your slider. So that's our distortion tool. Have fun with that one with many different types of objects. Next, we're going to go on to a very popular interactive tool. Here's where we get to add some shadows using the interactive drop shadow tool.